Good evening. Once again, I am Raju Upadhyay from CIMAGE College, Patna, Department of IT. Today, I am going to talk about two important topics of Java. First is, I'll discuss what is the difference between object-oriented and object-based programming. And second is, I'm going to talk about what is called class path and how we can set the class path, right? So I'll be starting with the first topic, that is called what is the difference between object-oriented language as well as object-based language. So there are basic differences between the object-oriented language and object-based languages. So the first difference is object-oriented language follow all concept of OOPs, whereas object-based language does not follow all concept of OOPs like inheritance, polymorphism, data heading, and all. Second major difference is object-oriented language do not have inbuilt object, whereas object-based language have the inbuilt object. So some of the example of the object-based language could be your JavaScript has the object, Windows object, as well as we are having the Visual Basic. That is also an object-based language. So example of the object-oriented programming languages could be Java, C#, Smalltalk, C++, like that, right? Whereas the example of object-based languages are JavaScript and VB script. So JavaScript and VB script or Visual Basic can be treated or can be called as object-based language, right? However, as an object-oriented programming language, we have the Java, C#, C++, Smalltalk, like that. So let us summarize once again the major differences between object-based language and object-oriented language. So the first is your object-oriented language. The object-based language and then object-oriented language. So for the object-based language, we can say as a support of features of object-based language as well as object-oriented language. So the first thing is that support of feature. What are the features are being supported in the object-based language and what are the features supported by object-oriented language? So as far as object-based language is concerned, it supports object-based language that does not support all the feature of OOPs, right? However, for object-oriented language support all the features of OOPs, right? Now, inheritance. If you talk about the inheritance in the object-based language, they does not support OOPs feature that is called inheritance. That means if you have the object-based language, there you don't get the concept of inheritance. But if you have the object-oriented language, it supports all the feature of OOPs, including inheritance as well. That means in the Visual Basic, if you're writing a program in the Visual Basic, you can have a class, but one class cannot inherit the another class. However, in the object-oriented language, you can support all kind of OOPs feature as well as you can inherit one class from another class. Now, as a sample, we can say object-based language. As an object-based language, I mentioned Visual Basic is an object-based programming language because you can use class and objects here, but you cannot inherit one class from another class. That is why we can say it does not support inheritance. However, in object-oriented language, take example of Java, which is very popular. Java is an object-oriented language because it supports all the concept of OOPs like data encapsulation. In Java, you can have the concept of data encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, data abstraction, dynamic binding, like that. These all features of OOPs are being supported by Java. Now, as example, we can, as I mentioned, I'm summarizing it now. As example, as an object-based language, we can have JavaScript, Visual Basic. These are the major example of object-based language. However, in the object-oriented language, we have Java, C++, C#, clear. VB.NET are example of object-oriented language. Visual Basic is object-based. However, VB.NET is a object-oriented language, right? So this is all about your the concept of difference between object-oriented or object-based programming language, right? So far, if you have not clicked my like button, you can click the like button of this particular channel. If you have not subscribed this particular channel, you do subscribe the channel as well as click on the bell icon. And if you have any sort of doubts, query, questions, you can ask the question in the comment section. Now, I'm going to talk about the second part of this particular video. That is called what is called class path. So class path is a kind of an environment variable. Like normally, after installing a Java, we are setting the two different environment variable. One is path, another is the class path, right? So now I'm going to talk about the class path. So class path is an environment variable which is used by your application class loader to locate and load your class files. The class file defines the path to find third-party and user-defined classes that are not extension or part of your Java platform, right? Include all directories which contains the .class file and .jar file when setting the class path. So that means at the time of setting a class path, we have to set either files or you can say set the directory. Now, the requirement is when do I need to have this concept of class path? So you need to set the class path if you need to load a class that is not present in your current working directory or any subdirectories. If you have the class in your current working directory, no need to set the class path automatically, your program will execute. But if the program which you wanted to execute, which is not present in your current directory or any current subdirectory, for that you need to set the class path. Second one, you need to load a class that is not a location specified by the extension mechanism, right? For that, specifically, you have to set the class path. So your class path always depends on what you are setting the class path, right? The class path has the directory name or file name at the end. So just notice one thing. I said class file has a directory name or file name at the end. That means whenever you are going to set the class path, your directory name or file name has to be there, specified at the end. So certain points describe what should be the end of the class path, right? Now, in Java terminology, like normally we are understanding the concept of zip file. That is, zip file is a compressed file, right? It has the collection of so many different kind of file. So in Java, if you are going to have the zip or compressed kind of file, so it is said to be jar file, right? So jar file, .jar file is going to have collection of so many classes and other Java related files. So if a jar or zip, the file contains class files, the class path ends with the name of the zip or jar file. That means if you're having a class inside a jar file, then as a class path, the path which you are going to write, at the end you will be writing the name of the zip file. If the class file placed in an unnamed package, clear? That means if you have written a class where you have not mentioned any package name, so then class path ends with the directory that contains the class file where we don't have package name. If the class file placed in a named package, right? The class path ends with the directory that contains the root package. Clear? In the full package name, that is the first package in full package name, right? So these are the situation where we require the concept of class path. Now I'll let you know how to set the class path, right? So I'm going to share my screen to everyone. So please follow my screen and there we'll discuss. I'll show you how to set the class path. Let me share my screen. Just wait for a minute. I'm going to share my screen. Yes. I hope you people are able to see my screen. Right. So what I'll do is, in this particular screen, you have this PC, right? We are having this PC. First of all, I wanted to show you where the Java software has been installed. In my system, if you wanted to see where the Java file has been installed, Java software got installed. So I can open this PC. Within this PC, we are having a C drive out here. Within a C drive, if you can go through the Java programs folder, within this, you can notice out here, this is the Java folder which got created at the time of installation of Java software. Within Java, you can notice out here, we are having a version which I have installed. So here the version is JDK 1.8. So I'll open it, and within this, I'm having a folder called bin. So within a bin, we are having, these are the files for which I want to set the class path. So what I can do is, I don't need this particular file. So directly, I can go to this particular location and I'll copy this particular path, right? So in order to copy the path, what you can do is, just you can click it here, automatically entire path is getting selected, and I'll copy this path from here by just pressing the Control C. After pressing the Control C, we have to go to environment variable. So where do I get the environment variable? Just by right clicking this PC, and within this we are having a properties, right? In this properties, this property window comes. Within this property here, we are having an option called advanced system setting. So I'll be clicking on advanced system setting, right? Just after clicking the advanced system setting, you will be getting this kind of window. Just you notice out here. Within this window, we are having an environment variable. I'll click on the environment variable. In this particular environment variable, what we are having out here. Here we are having two blocks. One is the user variable, and another is the system variable. So we have to go inside the system variable, right? And here we can set the path. Here I can specify the class path. So I can mention a class path out here, like I'll be going to this particular location, and I can set the path just by using a new followed by class path, right? And here I can have the variable value. So I can set it like this, and within this, let's say my location is bin folder. So within a bin, I'll be writing, and then I'll be writing backslash dot, and then I'll be writing dot, and then I'll be writing semicolon. In this way, I can set the class path. So that's all for this particular video. So in this way, you can set the class path and you can execute your application where the class path is applicable. So thanks for watching this video. Still, I'm telling you, you can click on like button. And if you have any sort of doubts and queries, you can drop your doubt and queries in the comment section. I'll reply back to you. Thanks for watching this particular video once again.